Why does my flute sound airy? Is this not a common question or problem, or something that you yourself struggle with? Well, let me go through a couple of embouchure and mouth and body things that you can do or assess to see if you can improve your sound, to create a clearer flute sound. Now, when we play the flute, if there's something difficult, you will notice that we immediately tense, particularly if we're playing high notes. Now, tensing is really bad because we suddenly restrict the air that we're pushing out of our body into our flute. So take an audit of your body. When you're playing a really difficult part in your music, are your shoulders suddenly raising? Are you suddenly really restricting your neck? Are you feeling very tense? If you are, try and relax. That is one of the biggest problems when we're getting an airy or a less desirable sound, is that we are too tense and too tight, and we're actually restricting the air that's coming out. The next thing we need to think about is the inside of our mouth. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but think about it. Your mouth is where the sound is resonating from. Much like a violin or a guitar, the body of the instrument is what creates the beautiful sound. That's why they're hollow. That's why they've got holes. So when you pluck the string, the vibration is going to go into the instrument and create the sound. So your mouth is exactly the same as a guitar body or a violin body. You need to make sure that there is space in your mouth for the sound to resound, to come out, to really resonate. So to do this, think about the placement of your tongue. Your tongue should be further towards the bottom of your mouth. And your soft palate, I'd highly recommend you lift that. What's your soft palate? Okay, when you yawn, you'll notice that the back of your mouth goes up. Or when you sing and you're singing a high note, oh, there's a reason I don't sing, you will lift your soft palate. So you need to create that feeling where your soft palate is lifted, your tongue is down the bottom of your mouth, out of the way. That creates a lot more space in your mouth, which then allows you to create a beautiful sound. Now, the next thing we can think about is our tonguing. Now, beginners will often go ha ha ha, and they're using their diaphragm to create the sound, which doesn't create a very nice sound. So make sure that you're tonguing correctly with the tongue at the top of the mouth, and then you drop it down. Now think about your tongue placement. Is your tongue right behind your front teeth? Because if it is, you're creating less space in your mouth by having your tongue along the bottom, and then actually it's probably through the middle of your mouth and then up behind your front teeth. Bring your tongue back a little bit. You'll notice that behind your teeth, you then have a little bit of skin, and then you have a ridge. And when you go up into the concave of your mouth, there's a ridge there, and that's actually where I recommend you put your tongue. So it might feel a little bit uncomfortable because all of a sudden the tongue is halfway back in your mouth, but try and bring it away from the front teeth. If it's right up behind the front teeth, you're going to create a percussive sound, a very heavy tonguing. You won't be able to move your tongue as fast, and you're also going to reduce the amount of space inside your mouth. Okay, so those are some physical things that we can think about while we're playing the flute to create a better sound. But what about some exercises? Now, pretty much all musicians will sit there for many hours playing along notes. Now, I know you've probably heard of these before. We basically choose a note and we play it and we hold it for as long as we possibly can. Now, not only is this a great exercise for increasing our breath support or how long we can hold a note, it actually gives us time to think about the tone. Now, the beauty of long notes is that we're not focusing on the music in front of us. We're not focusing on the notes and the rhythms and all the other things that you have to focus on when you're playing. It's a great warm-up. We warm up the flute, we get into the mindset of our practice that we're about to do, and it gives us time to really focus on the sound. So while you're playing your long note, do an audit. Are you tense in your neck? Are your shoulders lifted? Make sure they're relaxed. Where is your tongue in your mouth? Could you bring it back a little bit? Is there space in your mouth? Are you breathing deeply? Make sure that you're using lots of air. So there's lots of different things that we need to be thinking about when we create a sound on the flute. So for a long note, I like to start on a comfortable note. So this might be a B flat, that's often a common one. It might be an A, perhaps you love a D. Choose one of those notes, it doesn't matter. Play that note and hold it for as long as you can. Then when you're happy with the tone, move up a semitone. So if you're going from a D, you're going to go from a D to an E flat. If you're doing a B flat, you'll go from a B flat to a B. Doesn't matter where you start. If you really want to be working on your high notes, start higher. If you really want to be working on your low notes, start lower. If you're still a beginner and you're just learning to play the flute, choose something in the middle. So I'm going to start with an A. I'm going to really focus on the sound that I'm creating. I've actually got a tuner right in front of me on my stand here. Now I'm not going to look at that the whole time. I'm going to play a note and then I'm going to gaze down and check where my tuning is. So let's give it a go with an A. 1, 2, 3. Now I can tell you that A was a little bit on the flat side. It was also a little bit wavery, which means I wasn't supporting properly. I had opened my mouth up. Now let me play that A again for you again, but this time I'm going to actually bring my tongue up into my mouth. So I'm essentially closing up the space in my mouth. So here's the A again. Not as nice, right? And all that I did was reduce the space inside my mouth. The air was the same, maybe a little bit less because I couldn't get as much air out, but the biggest change was the fact that my tongue was in the middle of my mouth. Now I'm going to play that A again and I'm going to change my posture. I'm going to drop my head. Ready? Or if I'm here, so as you can see, there is a lot of things that come into the sound on the flute. The best thing you can do is be aware of your body and what you're doing, and to practice long notes to make sure that you're always improving. Now, although your long notes may sound absolutely beautiful, it may take a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months before the sound that you create, that you're really happy with when you're doing your long note exercises in your warm-up, before that sound actually translates to your pieces. Why? Because when we're looking at a piece of music, we are focusing so much on so many other things that we don't always have time to think about the sound. So try and become aware of it. Record yourself. Recording yourself is so important because we don't actually hear what other people hear. So having a teacher can be great, but if you don't have the luxury of that, then try and record yourself and listen back to it. No one has to see it, no one has to hear it, but it is great for you to be able to assess what you're doing. You'll be surprised what you're doing that you're completely unaware of. You'll be surprised how often you drop your head or your flute comes down. You'll be surprised how tense you get. You'll be surprised how bored you look with your facial expressions. So record yourself, whether it's sound or video. We pretty much all have mobile phones nowadays. So do a quick recording of yourself playing something and see if you like it or not. Chances are you're not going to. And then my second challenge for you is that once you've done that recording, keep it. In a week's time, do it again. And in a week's time, do it again. At the end of the month, where you've actually been focusing on these long notes and improving your tone, then look at the first one that you recorded. And then continue this for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months and go back to the first one. Whenever you're feeling a little bit dejected, like you're not making any improvement, go back to one of those early recordings and give yourself a boost. You will be surprised at how much you improve.